So today's video is all about my top 5 fountain pens for everyday use. And I'm also going to show you what inks I have currently inked in these 5 pens. Now, keep in mind, these aren't necessarily my all-time favorite pens, although one of them is my all-time favorite pen. But these are really all about the pens that are the most functional for me and that I am reaching for on a daily basis. If that sounds like something that would interest you, then I invite you to settle in. I will try my best to keep this somewhat concise, but my videos do tend to be chatty, so grab yourself a drink, maybe a snack, and something to keep you company and feeling cozy while we hang out and chat about fountain pens. So my drink of choice is a ginger peach tea. And my snack of choice are these chocolate wafers. This is the pen case that I am using and reaching for on a daily basis. I will leave some information about it in the description of this video. But it is the pen and wallet case, I think it's called. It is a collaboration between the Superior Labor and Wonder Pens. Wonder Pens is a retail store in Toronto. If this is something that you would like to get, then I would recommend signing up for email notifications for this specific product or signing up for the email newsletter by Wonder Pens. They tend to let you know in either their regular newsletter or through their back in stock notifications when this is coming back. And that's one way that you can get this. So this is the light brown, but I believe they have a natural color variant, a light brown, a dark brown, and a black. I love this pen wallet so much. I use this every day. This is my 3rd year using it, and I have been tempted by other pen wallets, but I just love this one so much that I don't really need another pen wallet. So there's a flap on the front and you can fit several pens. I usually put up to 2 pens in this flap. And then when you open it up, there are 3 sections for pens over here. And then there's also a flap on the right side where you can fit a number of pens here if you want as well. And I've used this for different configurations. I've put like a ruler in here. I've put highlighters, markers. The only thing that doesn't fit in here are the Tombow markers. But yeah, I really love this so much. It has developed so much patina. It is so soft and it's in great shape. And this little logo here hasn't rubbed off yet. I mean, maybe it will eventually, but it's still going strong. Okay, so the first pen that I will show you or talk about is the Pilot Vanishing Point or capless, depending on what you want to call it. And it is in the black with the gold trim. So this is an 18K nib, and this is the fine nib. And it's a retractable pen, and I have been using this pen pretty much daily since I got it almost 2 years ago. So I'm not really that precious with it. So if you look closely, you will see maybe a few scratches. I did dent the pen early on when I got it, which I was upset about at the time, but I think that has just added to its character, and I have no plans to ever sell this pen. So I don't mind that it has some history. So currently I have it inked with Tsukio. So I thought it might be fun to show you a little ink swatch of that. Okay, so let me just move some of these out of the way. And I'm going to use my little swINK. This is by Fountain Pen News from my friend Wendy Sue. Beautiful color. with this pen, it's so convenient. I use this for taking notes, so I'm often using it when I'm adding notes in my planners, and then I like to carry it with my planner, so I can use it to as I'm planning, like writing down my to-do list. And if I'm out, this is an example of when I was at the vet, and I was actually just standing in the vet's office taking notes as the vet was sharing information with me, and I was actually holding my Hobonichi like this, and I was able to, just take notes like that. So this is the most convenient pen. I have acquired other retractable pens. I have 2 Decimos at the moment, and I also have the capless in a medium nib. The medium nib is a gorgeous, juicy writer, but when it comes to daily use, the fine is the one that I always return to because it dries quickly. I can fit a lot in these small grids, and I just love the classic black and gold trim. So I love this pen. I use it all the time. It was the first kind of like fancy pen that I bought, and it's still one of my most used. So this is the Pilot Vanishing Point, and this is in the fine nib. And this ink is Pilot Iroshizuku Sukiyo. So I find that I prefer to cycle through blue inks in this pen. I've tried a few different brands, and I found that I'm not sure if it's my specific pen or if it's just the way the Vanishing Point is made. It seems to be a bit of a drier writer, which is confusing because when you write with it, it feels wonderful on the paper, but it always makes my inks look a little less saturated. I discovered this when I was actually inking all my pens with Konpeki. You can see here, this is my ink testing insert where I ink all my pens with Konpeki, the same ink, so that I can compare. And this is actually the Vanishing Point with the fine nib, and you can see, especially next to the medium, this is the same ink, but it looks so much darker with the medium nib compared to the fine. So that's one thing I don't love about this pen is I wish it kind of looked a little more like this when I used it with my inks. But the convenience kind of wins out, and I find that the writing experience is the best when I pair it with a Pilot Iroshizuku ink. So I have tried Sailor inks in here. I have tried Ferris Wheel Press. I've tried Diamine, Jacques Herbin, and I find that the best writing experience is when I pair it with an Iroshizuku. So right now I am cycling through my blue Iroshizuku inks, and I'm really enjoying Sukiyo. The second pen that I am always reaching for is this Platinum Century 3776. This is also black with gold trim, and I love how this pen feels in my hand. The nib is a soft fine, and it's a 14 karat, and I have this permanently inked with permanent black inks. So I initially had hoped when I got this pen that I could ink it up with permanent ink. So I had wanted to ink this up with platinum carbon black, but I found that unfortunately I kept getting hard starts, and no matter what I tried, even though I was using it on a daily basis, I just couldn't get this pen and ink to behave. So eventually I switched to this pen because I had read that it has a slip and seal cap mechanism that allows the ink to stay, like prevents the ink from drying. And since my favorite black permanent ink is platinum carbon black, and this is a platinum pen, I just thought this would be the perfect pairing. So I actually currently have it inked with Diatramentis Document Black. Honestly, because I was just curious if I might prefer this ink. And that's mainly because when I was first picking my permanent black ink, I got samples of Diatramentis, and I also got a sample of this Platinum Carbon Black. And I remembered at the time I had preferred Platinum Carbon Black, so I bought a bottle. Fast forward to a couple years later, curiosity got the best of me. I had heard that the Diatramentis document inks work really well with the capless, and so I guess I was just curious, and I decided to try the bottle and see what I thought. I will show you a swatch of both. I still prefer the look of the Platinum Carbon Black, and I'll show you a writing sample of both in a second. But first, let me just quickly show you. It's going to be confusing because I'm actually writing this with Document Black, but this is Platinum Carbon Black. Okay, and then this is Diatramentis Document Black. They actually look very similar in these swatches. I love the way this writes because it has a very fine line. As you can see, it writes very fine, but if you, I mean, it's not a flex nib, but if you do want a little bit of character to your writing or variation, it does have the capability to just be a little more expressive. I love this pen because I love having a permanent ink handy. I often take my notes with a permanent pen, so I'll show you. I use this permanent black to take notes, especially if they're notes that I know that I'm going to be referring to. So this is a notebook that I'm constantly referring back to. And I see this more as like a reference notebook. And this is an example of why I love using a permanent ink, because I made most of my notes with black ink, but I wanted to highlight certain things. And I was actually able to use another ink, which is Ferris Wheel Press Autumn and Auburn. And I was able to just color over it and use it as a highlighter. So this is actually Platinum Carbon Black, and I don't know if you can see, but it's a really beautiful saturated black. There's really no shading in this ink, and I like that for a black ink, especially for cases like this where, again, I'm really just taking notes. I also use it in my memory keeper, so I use it to take to do my journal, like my journaling here. And I just like to keep it consistent so that it just remains a little more like water resistant. So I use it all the time in my journaling. I also use it often in my health and wellness tracker. So I write all my steps in here, and any kind of like information in the back. So any type of information like with my year at a glance, all of this stuff, I would be very upset if I were to lose it. So if this book got wet, I would expect all of this stuff to at least be like to remain intact. And that's what's really important to me, is these are the kinds of things that I really want to keep long term. So anything that I know that I'm going to want to have handy, I use permanent ink. So I love this pen. It writes really well, and it handles permanent ink so well. So while I have realized that I prefer Platinum Carbon Black, actually I can show you. Even in here you can see the difference. So I don't know if you'll be able to see, but this is Platinum Carbon Black. And then this is Diatramentis document black. So it might be a bit hard to see, but it's thinner and it's a little less saturated. So the other one looks a little more like a darker black, and this one looks almost like a dark gray charcoal black. So some people might prefer that, but when I'm looking for a black ink, I still really prefer the platinum carbon black. I will say that sometimes when I'm refilling the platinum carbon black, I have noticed, I don't know if it's called, like it's not called nib creep because the nib is here, but sometimes the platinum carbon black will kind of spill out over here and I'll have to wipe it. It doesn't affect the performance of the pen. It just looks a little messy. Whereas I've not had that problem with the Diatramentis document black. So if anyone else has experienced that, I would be curious to know why that happens. As I mentioned, it doesn't affect the pen. It still writes fine, and it cleans, like it doesn't stain or anything, but I'm not sure why that ink does that. So anyway, that's my second most used pen. So my third most used pen is another Platinum 3776. And this is a very special pen that I got last year. It is the 3776 Celluloid in Tortoise. I got these two pens around the same time. I ended up getting this in a fine. So this is a 14K nib in a fine. And I initially had a lot of trouble with this nib. I first inked this with a few diamine brown inks, and for some reason it would dry out really quickly. Like in the middle of a writing session, you could see the ink just getting lighter and lighter and lighter. I also inked this up with Opera Rose, another really beautiful ink, and I had the same issue. So for a while, I almost actually considered selling this pen until I paired it with another permanent ink. So this is Diatramentis Document Ink Urban Sienna. And it is a beautiful warm brown ink. I got a sample of this around the same time I got samples of all of the different black inks, and I fell in love with this. It is a very wet ink, and in some pens I find that it's almost like too wet, but I think because this is quite a dry writer, it almost like balances out how wet this ink is. So this is my Platinum 3776 Celluloid in a fine. And this is Diatramentis Document Urban Sienna. So yeah, I don't know if you can see that, but it's a little, I think you have to write maybe a little slower to see the shading, and I'm not sure how much ink is actually in here at the moment. It might need a refill. Okay, looks like it has enough. I don't remember if it shows the shading as well. So let's see, does it show? Yeah, it's kind of hard to see, but there is a bit of shading. And I really love the fact that it's a document ink because I use it all the time. In my health and wellness tracker, I use it to write out the things that I'm tracking. And I love it because I can write everything out and then I can go and highlight over after, and I don't have to worry about things smudging. So I prefer that because I used to highlight things first and then wait for it to dry and then write on top. But sometimes it's hard to predict how things are going to go, and I just find it a lot easier to write everything out first and worry later and not worry at all. So I love using it in here. And then I also use it all the time in my weekly supplement. So anytime I have things that I need to remember, I will use it to write it out here, or I use my capless, my vanishing point. And then I also use it over here. And it's really important that I have a water resistant or a waterproof ink, because I use this to track my hours for different projects I'm working on. And yes, I should probably be tracking things digitally because that's probably safer, but it's just easier for me to flip through something like this if I'm catching up on my hours. And so it's really useful for me to have a waterproof ink, because I do take this out with me, and if I were ever to get this wet, I would like to have the security to know that not everything would disappear. Okay, the next pen is actually one of the newer pens to my collection, but I picked it with a very specific purpose, and it has done an amazing job of fulfilling that purpose. So this is my BENU Euphoria Milk and Honey. This was very kindly gifted to me by BENU. And I chose to get this pen with the stub nib. So before BENU had reached out, I was contemplating getting a TWSBI Eco with a stub nib. And I'm sure that would have worked out well as well, but I love how this pen writes. So first of all, I've only had amazing writing experiences with BENU pens. This is it's either a Schmidt nib or a Jowo nib. This is a 1.1 stub, and I use this pretty much exclusively for my shimmer inks, because I do have quite a few shimmer ink samples, and I have a couple of shimmer ink in bottles, and I'm always too afraid to use them in my pens, but this handles shimmer ink so well. I mean, I've only tried maybe 3 or 4 because it does take me a while to use up this pen, but I'm having the best time with it. So currently I have it inked with Bookkeeper's Brass, which is a Ferris wheel press ink that I got a couple of years ago. And it's a really beautiful ink, but I had tried it in a few pens and I found that this ink clogged up those pens. So I kind of resigned myself to really never use this unless I was using it with a dip pen. But I did decide to try it out, and I did find that the first couple of days of using the pen with the ink, it didn't flow very well, and I thought maybe it wasn't a good match. Let me actually just try to get some shimmer so you can see how pretty this ink is, because it is a really beautiful ink. After a few days, I just found that it handled it really well, and I haven't had any hard starts. And I've used up a very big cartridge, and I'm almost finished, so I'm really excited to move on to another ink. But I've been very impressed with this ink. So yeah, I'm just gonna put this here. Okay. Hopefully I'll get some really nice shimmer. So this is my BENU Euphoria Milk and Honey. And this is Ferris Wheel Press Bookkeeper's Brass. So this is going to take a little while to dry because I really laid that ink on pretty thick. But yeah, I have been so impressed with this pen. It's beautiful, but it's also kind of understated. And like I said, it handles the shimmer so well. I use it mostly as headings. So for my journal, or my memory keeper. I use it to kind of make little headings for when I'm separating different events that I want to write about. And in my Artist's Way, I have one insert that I have dedicated to taking notes from the different chapters. So I use it as well for headings. And I'm really enjoying that as well. And you can, hopefully you can see that, but the shimmer just, it comes through, and it's such a delight to write with. It's not like, I've had pens before where I've put shimmer inks in it and it almost feels like you're writing with sand, but I don't get that at all with this pen. So I'm very happy with it. And I'm so glad that I have just a little bit of fun. So most of these pens are so utilitarian that they're not exciting. They're not really necessarily the most exciting pens, especially I feel like it's always black in here. And I've always got I've always got the same brown in this pen. I do switch up my inks in here, but it tends to be very... various shades of blue, honestly, just because the inks that I have by Iroshizuku, my collection is growing, but I tend to have a lot of blue Iroshizuku inks. So yeah, this is just a really fun pen to reach for, and I love it. And the really cool thing too is the clip. I didn't mention this in my other video, but the clip is I don't know how to describe it. Like it's like a clip that you can open with your finger. So none of these do that. I don't know if you can see that, but if you press down, like nothing comes up. And so it becomes really easy to use it to store the pen in this back flap, because I don't have to struggle with it. I can just open the clip and put it in. So it's just really easy to get in and out. I don't think it would be a problem if I kept it in one of these like pen slots, but because I have it over on the back here, I just find like it kind of clips really easily. So I really love this pen, I have to say. Okay, the final pen that I am reaching for on a daily basis is my beloved Pilot Custom A23. And I'm sure this isn't a surprise to anyone. And you can see it's practically empty because I filled it up and I already wrote, like I pretty much used it up. I originally bought this pen intending for it to be my everyday note taker. And I was going to pair this with a permanent document ink. But honestly, it handles ink so well, and I can definitely get into that in a future video. But it handles ink so well that I just can't keep this pen married to only one ink. I'm constantly wanting to try new inks with this pen just to see how it writes and how it makes the ink look. And I'm always changing it. So yeah, it's a little bit more work to clean compared to like a cartridge converter pen, but I haven't found it to be so annoying that I don't use it. So, yeah, I love this pen. I love the way it writes. Most of the time when I'm doing my long form journaling, I'm reaching for this pen. But I do have some other pens that have equally unique and lovely writing experiences, like my Sailor pens. I absolutely love long form journaling with my Sailor pens. So that's why I consider this my like everyday writers, but not necessarily my all-time favorite writers, because if it were my all-time favorite pens, I would definitely have a Sailor included in this list. But when it comes to, my regular journaling, my note-taking, anything like that, these are the pens. So let me show you what ink I have in this pen right now. It's currently actually a sample of a Pilot Irishizuku Seongyo. And this beautiful sample holder is from Fountain Pendulum. So this is a really beautiful, dark, rich purple. So this is my... Oh, it just writes, when paired with Pilot Irishizuku inks, it is also an amazing writer. It's just so smooth and buttery. Oh, I love it. No, Pilot Custom 823. And this is a fine nib. I think this is also a 14 karat. And this is Pilot Irishizuku Seongyo. So I could write with this pen for hours and hours. And I don't really have anything more to say about it. I think I have already talked about this pen a lot on my channel, and I've talked about how much I've loved it. And if I do use other pens for long form journaling, which I do enjoy doing, it's not long before I come back to this pen. So I will show you something really interesting, or at least something I found interesting. I do have this pen and ink log that I keep, and I'll admit I'm not the best at keeping up with it. Like sometimes I do forget to record pens and inks that I ink in my pen, but I did want to show you. Hopefully you can see that. This is the same ink in 3 different pens, and I do love to test inks in different pens. I guess that is part of the fun of the hobby for me. And so this is the J Urban Ombre de Bimani. Sorry for my French pronunciation. And the top here is the ink in a Kaweco Sport, my olive. And you can see it's like a very yellow, one-dimensional color. It's not that inspiring, and if this were how it always wrote, I don't think that I would be too excited about the ink color. Down here, it is inked in my Pilot Custom 823, so I had it inked in there before I had Seongyo, which it's currently inked with. And you can see there's a lot of... I did notice the writing experience. It did feel drier to write with compared to when I have my Pilot Custom 823 inked with an Irishizuku ink. That is like skating rink, buttery feel. And then with this one, it's like a little bit of feedback and a little bit of resistance, but it's nothing. It's still very enjoyable. It's just not quite that skating rink experience from my perspective anyway. However, I love that when you write with it, you can see the shading. So you can see there's darker bits, there's lighter bits. It's just a really beautiful outcome. And then when I put it in my TWSBI Eco in an extra fine nib, it's so interesting to me. So then you see that there's no shading really, but it's so much darker. So it's like a much more saturated ink at this point. It's like almost like a dark amber, and I do love it. But I do find it so interesting that it does show the ink in a more saturated way, but it doesn't really show any shading. So again, if you were to ask me why do I love the A23 so much, it's just, I think for my preferences on how I like my inks to write, I think it really showcases it in the best way possible. Now, if you're not a fan of shading, and I know not everybody is, then maybe you would prefer something like a TWSBI Eco where it just shows the darkest color, because Another problem with a lot of inks is that depending on the pen you put it in and the nib size, sometimes the ink will come out very desaturated or very light in color and it might not be legible. So I do love that with the TWSBI Eco, it does handle inks really well. And I think maybe the fact that it shows so much ink, maybe that has to do with it having a bigger feed. I'm not too sure, but I wonder if that's why TWSBI Ecos are known to be good with shimmer inks as well, because maybe there's something about the flow. I'm not too sure. But whatever the Pilot Custom does is like magic to me. And I'm still finding it challenging to find a pen that really checks all my boxes. And honestly, I think I'm getting to a point where I'm not that interested in continuing to experiment. I have gotten a few more pens since this Pilot Custom 823, and I am thinking about now paring down my collection because I think I've just made a lot of impulsive decisions trying to chase this kind of outcome, and I just haven't really found it yet. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say about the Pilot Custom 823 for now. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this for a bit and I'm going to let these inks dry. Perhaps I put a little too much ink here because I can see that it is feathering a little bit, although this is possibly also the 2025 Hobonichi paper issue. So I'm just going, whoa. Oh my goodness. Okay, look at this. I'm glad I put this writing board because look at how much it actually went through on the other side of the page. That is crazy. So I'm going to let this dry. Oops. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have done that. I'm going to let this dry and I will come back and show you what this looks like dried. And then we will wrap up the video. Okay, it's been a little while. Some of these inks are still kind of drying, but I think you kind of get the idea, especially with this Bookkeeper's Brass. You can definitely see the shimmer, so hopefully you'll be able to see it as well. So yeah, these are my 5 fountain pens for everyday use. I love all of these pens. I definitely would count them among some of my top pens. I would probably just add a few other pens to this overall list if I was thinking about like top favorite fountain pens of all time. And to recap, I use my Pilot Vanishing Point for notes and mostly in my planners. I use the Pilot Custom 823 for long form journaling. These are my permanent ink pens. This is a black pen and this is a brown pen, and I use these two for setting up layouts, for doing some journaling as well, and basically taking notes for anything that I want to be referencing for a really long time. And then finally, I have my BENU Euphoria, my fun pen, and this is what I use for headings, emphasizing text, and my sparkly shimmer inks. I'd love to hear what some of your everyday fountain pens are. If you've tried any of these pens, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on them. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'd love to have a conversation with you. If you're still here, thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Bye!